Different perspectives, same passion. Welcome to the Coach and the Couch Potato Podcast.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 22 of the Coach and the Couch Potato. This one, there's not a whole lot of 22s in Ohio State history. So, obviously we could call it the Les Horvath episode.
Okay.
We're going to go to the hardwood, though. And we're gonna call it the Jimmy Jackson episode.
There we go. Yeah, 20. I was thinking of 22. I'm like, man, like I don't know.
No, there's not a lot to pick from. So we went with JJ.
As
always, Jeremy, the Couch Potato. Opposite side of the screen, we got Coach Slate. How was your weekend, sir?
It was it's been a good busy weekend, man. I entered this thing called the Rogue Service Cup through Rogue Barbell. I don't know what I was thinking. I did one of the workouts, and I did it because my brother-in-law asked me to, and we did one of the workouts, and it was brutal, but we got through it. So I got 2 more to do. So I can't wait to get that over with. But it's been fun. We had the football camp yesterday. We talked about that a little bit before we got on air, but it was good. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but yeah, it's been a good weekend, man. How about yourself?
Good. Low key, kind of hung out at home. Speaking of you and competitions and workouts, we're like a week or 2 away from a teams competition, I heard.
Yeah, man. So yeah, there's a competition that we will be doing in Ashland, Ohio that I've been training pretty hard for. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I've been I complain about CrossFit quite a bit, but I've been training pretty hard. But dude, I am nervous. I am so nervous that I'm gonna fail. And they just changed the workouts on us too. So yeah, so I'm like, okay, well, this is gonna be so much. This is gonna be so much fun.
I had heard the workouts were in your favor originally. So.
Yeah, originally, yes. Originally they were in our favor. They made a sudden tweak. And so now we're back to the drawing board, but we'll see how it goes.
For sure. For those of us that watch us on YouTube and those of us that don't, you'll see that Coach Slate has some new decor behind him.
Yeah, man.
Shout out Luke.
Yeah.
This time of year, we've talked about it the last couple of weeks. It's recruiting. And what a week. We talked about last weekend. We talked about Bo Jackson being on his visit. And Monday night, Bo knows. Bo pulled the trigger.
Bo knows.
He pulled the trigger, commits to the Buckeyes. We've talked about Bo a lot. Must have. Number 5 running back in the country, number 81 player in the nation, an Ohio kid from Cleveland, Villa Angeles, St. Joseph, that gave us Mr. Control-Alt-Delete David Lighty.
Yeah.
We're more than football fans around here.
Yeah.
This one was, as I read a little bit of the backstory and stuff, and we kind of hit on it, we'll say 5-6 weeks ago. I think we might have to chalk this one up to lock.
Yeah, I think so too.
Tony Alford had kind of made Bo Jackson an afterthought.
Yeah.
It seemed like, there was no smoke with him, fought off Georgia, fought off Bama. Are you kind of along that same line of thought that, we chalk this one to lock?
Yeah. I think so. I think he had some ground to make up when he got here. I think him having that experience with Coach or Bo Jackson from out at Oregon, having identified him as somebody that he thought, was a type of downhill running back that Oregon needed. Fast forward, now that he's a Buckeye, he felt the same exact way. And so he had to make a priority out of him or Marquise Davis. So I think those priorities flipped, whereas Tony Alford was making Marquise Davis a priority. I think Coach Locke flipped it and made Bo Jackson a priority. And I think it was a great choice. I mean, you look at the success of our running game over the last however many years and the not so much success that we've had the last couple years. I think the one common thing is that the years that we've had success, we've had guys that can get downhill right now and are able to make that first person miss, but they're always going to fall forward. They're going to get you 3 or 4. You look at Trey Sermon, you look at JK, obviously Zeke, Mike Weber, all those guys were not like burners. They were just downhill guys. And our running game was thriving. And so you get a guy like Travion Henderson, who has developed into a very physical runner, but the running game has kind of taken a couple steps back since those days of JK and the guys that were before him. So, I think Coach Locke really tried to look at the history of that position and where we've had success. And Bo Jackson he fits that mold of that downhill runner that I think is going to help elevate our run game in a major way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, he had nearly 30 touchdowns last year. I forget the exact number, 1,700 yards. I mean, this is a big get at a position of need, really. You're losing Quinshawn and Travion, so that's going to essentially leave you with Sam Williams, Dixon, James Peoples, and I think TC Caffey.
Yep.
And the other thing that stood out to me about like listening to Bo is Sam Williams Dixon was his host.
Yeah.
Which, to have a guy who's only been there 6 months hosting. Now, it does sound like there was a get-together of some sort at JTT's. So, to see a guy who not only chose to come back, but is also a senior leader on the other side of the ball, being kind of that brotherhood guy, that was cool to see.
Yeah.
So, that's the first kind of boom of official visit season, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
We've talked that the Buckeyes are going to have the bulk of their officials done in June. We talked last weekend about the guys on campus. Some of them are probably still there.
Yeah.
And it didn't take long for the fireworks to go off this weekend either.
Yeah.
Again, another massive get. Number 2 safety in the country, Faheem Dalane. We talked about him last week from Maryland, that DMV area.
Yep.
Our Lady Good Counsel High School. So that currently gives you the number 1 and number 2 corners, the number 2 safety, and then the other 2 safeties that we have. It's not like these guys are slouches. And Cody Haddad,
they're not, man.
And there's still more on the board, though. That's the thing with this secondary class.
Yeah,
is there's still 2 very, very big fish out there.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens there. But back to Faheem, this guy's more of a true like box safety, I guess would be the lingo.
Yeah.
Whereas the other 2 guys,
pulling up his highlights right now.
The other 2 guys we've got in the class tend to be more of those free/rover types.
Yep.
I mean, 6'2", 190. That screams safety.
Yeah, he's the real deal, man. He's the real deal. One of the things that stands out, like you said, he's definitely a box safety. And if you look at Jim Knowles' defense and the guys that he has had that we've had at safety, he reminds me, he's a bigger version of like a Lathan Ransom who can play down around the ball. He's an athlete, as you can just see, getting out there, making a great play on the kickoff return. For a high level, he's an elite player. I mean, you see that on the film. He's just a natural playmaker. He finds a way. He just came in there, shot out like a freaking missile, but he finds a way to get to the football, and you can see where he wants to be. He wants to be up around the line of scrimmage, wants to be up around the ball. And for our defense to be as successful as we need it to be, we need more guys that are like this, that can be that extra box defender for us. This is what they were trying to get us to do with a little bit with Sonny Styles. You know what I mean? With that size and trying to get him down around the box. I think Sonny outgrew the position. I think Faheem is going to fit this position perfectly. He's probably get up to about 210 pounds. It could probably stay there. And he's going to be a true strong safety. And he does have some man coverage ability in the slot as well. So he's just an explosive player.
Yeah. And, and a lot of times in the Knowles defense, that you can have a guy who can be your nickel, who can play safety or slot.
Yes.
So it'll be interesting to see, if that happens. Total tangent here, but Buckeye related, talking about how like Styles outgrew the position.
Yeah.
When I look at the safeties we've had over the last years, I feel like Josh Proctor was too big to be a safety.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, just a totally random tangent thought, as we talk through guys and positions and stuff like that.
I don't disagree with that. The one thing I will say though, when it comes to having those bigger safeties, it's also a mentality of, can they flip the switch to being in the box all the time? And the one thing about Josh Proctor was he wasn't always your in the box safety. He was like your true like middle safety and cover 3. And so you think back when he first jumped onto the scene with Ohio State, back in 2019, I think it was 2019. You saw that he had some versatility and he had range to go make plays, whereas Sonny didn't necessarily have that range to get over top. Josh did. And I just don't know if Josh would have had the same mentality as a linebacker that he had as a safety. As a safety, he was a headhunter. As a linebacker, now you've got to dissect, you've got to do all these different things. And so I think it would have changed. Whereas for me, I think Sonny is just naturally a guy who needed to be in the box. And he's just naturally grown into a will linebacker and has potential to be a very, very elite level one for us.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Proctor was not afraid to lay the lumber. He as a safety, he almost got to, not, I don't want to say not think, but you get to play a little freer when you're a safety versus a linebacker, especially when you're that deep safety and you have a little bit of extra read and react time.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, that will be cool to see. I mean, because you're looking at potentially losing the entire secondary outside of Caleb Downs this year.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of people that are always already talking about numbers when you start factoring what's still on the board. And, you need guys in the secondary.
Yeah.
And, this is going to be the most BIA class I think we've ever seen.
Dude, it's insane.
And OG Walt with the gift game today was on it.
Yeah.
So shout out to him.
OG Walt.
One of the insiders, I think it was Andrew Ellis, set the over-under at commits from this weekend at 2.5. Obviously we were at 1. I wrote down 3 names, and this was at like 10 a.m. this morning, that I would have put on commit watch, and Faheem was one of them.
Yeah.
So along those lines, the next guy I wrote down is Quincy Porter. We've talked about him.
Yeah. And there was a report that said that they were going to make him a very, very much a priority. Push. Yeah.
Yeah. To the point that our friends at Ann Arbor Community College up north are pretty nervous, it sounds like.
Okay.
Because they have been coming hard after him as well. And speaking of the wide receiver group, we've talked about the Jamie Frenches and Vernell Browns. And, a lot of the scuttlebutt out there right now is that Brown is not going to leave the state of Florida.
Yeah.
That French is probably going to end up at Texas. But I've been watching a little bit of SFE, the South Florida Express 7-on-7 team, for those that don't know, are on the NFL Network today. And Jamie French is a dog.
He's a dog. He's a dog. He's a real deal.
So, and there's also a train of thought out there that Jamie French and DeCorian Moore are not going to end up at the same school.
Yeah.
So, say Brown stays in Florida, French goes to Texas. That opens the door for Moore, who has seemed like the most likely of the 3 anyway to end up in Columbus.
Yeah.
But we'll see. You get Quincy Porter. Now you've got that big-bodied guy. We've got our slot guy. And then at this point, it's Coach Hartline, go do your thing.
Yeah.
So, wide receivers and DBs, we're fine, guys. We will be
perfectly fine. Perfectly fine.
The other name I wrote down, and I'm probably a little bit off on this one, is Trajan Odom. We've talked about him.
Yeah.
Because I'm not so sure that the third name should not be Javen McFadden.
Yeah.
Another big visitor this weekend, though, but I think he's still got an official left, is Damian Shanklin. We've talked about him.
Yeah.
And then really the last big name off the list is Jackson Lloyd, offensive lineman from California. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah.
One thing we did not hit when we talked about camp last week is I don't think his name was floated out there.
No.
and we don't talk about 26s and 27s. It's too far out outside of Chris Henry Jr.
Yeah.
He's but Jakeem Stewart showed up in Columbus this week,
which is crazy.
Number 1 recruit in the class of 26, 6'6", 270-pound defensive tackle. Right now it's an LSU, USC, Oregon, OSU battle.
Yeah.
The caveat here and why we bring Stewart up is there is a lot of smoke that he's going to reclassify to 25.
Yeah, I saw that, which will be big.
Yes. And obviously, you don't come to camp 1,200 miles or whatever the distance is away on your own dime to not be interested in the school.
Yep.
So that'll be worth monitoring.
Yeah, definitely worth monitoring. I think, with the way high school is now and, kids can graduate early and reclassify like he possibly will do, the Buckeyes have to make sure that they're staying on top of that. And so if he's going to possibly reclassify, let's get him up to campus. Let's show him the love. Let's lay out the red carpet so he knows you're a priority so that if it does happen, they know, like, okay, they were there for me from day one. They showed me the love. They said they would take me right now. And so, like, there are those things that happen. Obviously, we saw that with Quinn Ewers a few years ago. Those things with people, they reclassify. And this is a kid who's an absolute freaking monster of a human being who would be one of the top players in the country in this year's class if he does reclassify. And so, if it does happen, hopefully the Buckeyes have positioned themselves in a good position or put themselves in a good position to be in a battle. And hopefully they're able to pull it out and get him. The one thing I did want to talk about when we're talking about camp, though, is our guy from Westerville North, Jake Cook, I believe that's his name, offensive lineman, 6'5", currently a Louisville commit. He is considered an interior guy. Westerville North, by the way, coached by Marion Mayhem's own Stanley Jackson. But this guy, so the rumors and the things going around about this kid at camp are nothing but positives. Berm put out like a little update about how this guy, Jake Cook, was easily the hardest worker at the camp. And you could see that he was desperately working for an offer. So much so that he just kept taking rep after rep after rep, and that he had to step to the side and release a few liters of liquids and then come back and try to continue to battle. And then he came back to camp the next day. And so those are the guys that I will always, always root for. One of my favorite things about camp season, like you just said, with Jakeem Stewart coming up here on his own dime. He's coming here because he's interested in the school. These kids who come here and are trying to get scholarship offers, they're going so hard and they are betting on themselves. Yep. And if they grew up a Buckeye fan, even though they may be committed somewhere else, I will feel better about things if I go show the Buckeyes exactly who I am and I make them say no. They have no choice. Like if they look at me, they cannot deny how hard I'm working. And so shout out to Jake Cook for going out there and doing that. Do I know if he ends up in the class? I don't know. There's some things going around that it might happen, but this is a kid who is going to go out there and earn it. You think about Darren Lee, way back when, you know what I mean? Like everybody came to that camp to see Von Bell, but then Darren Lee pops up, this 82 ranked 3-star quarterback in a wing T offense. And they're like, oh, who's this kid? And now they're pulling Von Bell and Darren Lee aside. And next thing you know, Darren Lee's getting the offer, he commits, and he becomes a very good player for us. You know what I mean? So shout out to the kids that are going to these camps and trying to just go out there and earn it, because that is not an easy thing to do. And shout out to their parents and guardians for supporting them, because it is, you're dealing with two sets of emotions. You're going to be at the highest of the highs if the Buckeyes, offer me. But if I went there and gave it everything I had and they don't, it's going to be like, it's going to be hard to like, man, it's a hometown team. It's where I want to be. So I just want to give him some love, because from everything that I've read and heard over the weekend, he just busted his tail at camp. So shout out to him, man. Hopefully it works out for him. Those are the guys you root for and you want in the class.
Yeah, and you know, we'd be remiss when talking about last week's camp if we did not bring up the show stealer outside of Cook, Dwayne Galloway.
Yeah, man.
You know, talk about a kid that is obviously making no bones about it that he wants the OSU offer. You know, you just got to feel for him. Like, you know,
Yeah.
in a year where you've got number 1 and number 2 at his position already recruited, you're still talking to Dorian Brew, and you have a very good chance at getting him. And the feedback from camp was athleticism off the charts.
Yep.
Football needs a little bit of work.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of folks get so hung up on the athleticism. You know, 4.4 is fast. Don't get us wrong. But there's 4.4 track speed and there's 4.4 football speed.
Yeah.
If your technique is not where it needs to be and your hips aren't fluid or whatever the knock on him is, your 4.4 just became a 4.6 and you're going to get burnt.
Yeah.
I mean, fair enough.
No, that is very fair. And one of the things that, you know, people, you know, I've coached DBs for my entire coaching career. And one of the things that, you know, we always try to stress to the kids is when they go to these camps, you know, getting up and playing press man, like, yeah, that's cool. Like, you can do that. But there's not going to be a ton of times where you are in college where you're going to be playing that press man. Sometimes you're going to have to learn how to play from off. And so there's those little small technique things that need worked on that may not be in his tool belt yet. But you saw the clips, like the athleticism is through the roof, like his recovery speed, and he's able to make up, you know, so much ground when maybe he got beat off the line because he is a freak athlete and he can run. But there's those little fine details that, you know, these big time college recruiters want to see that can be developed in their players and their recruits. And maybe that's just not what they see in him right now. That doesn't mean the kid can't ball. He's got every offer in the country other than Ohio State. Like, the kid is a freak athlete and he's going to find success wherever he goes. And you could tell he wanted that Buckeye offer. The one thing I will say is that, you know, he's listed taller than what he actually is. You know, now 5'11" for a corner is not short, but if you look at who we are recruiting, they're all 6'1", legitimately 6'1" or taller. Sanchez is 6'3". You know what I mean? And so you're getting these long, rangy corners that Ohio State is trying to recruit. Galloway doesn't necessarily fit that mold right now. And so, you know, you hate to be so nitpicky when it comes to that, but Ohio State's put themselves in a position that they can do that. Yep. They can be nitpicky. They can, because they've got the top 2 in the country right now. Now we've got to go find that guy that has the elite traits that we're trying to develop. And, you know, who knows if he gets an offer, it may come later on down the road and he jumps on the opportunity. But he did do well. I mean, there's not many people that, you know, had anything negative to say about how well he did. He showed off how athletic he is, and he's super raw. And wherever he goes, if they can develop that athleticism and develop the football technical side of things, he's going to be a special player no matter where he goes. And so, you know, we're going to root for him no matter what, because he's from Ohio. So hopefully he goes out and does his thing. But, you know, Ohio State's just put themselves in a position where they can be extremely picky about the guys that they bring into this class. And it sucks because he's in our backyard. And you know how we are on this show. We want the Ohio guys, but Ohio State is OG Walt, man. He's just done a good job of getting the guys that he wants. And now he can go be even more picky and find, you know, that third corner in this class. And obviously, hopefully it's Brew. That'd be nice. Because he's got position versatility, corner, safety. And so we'll see how it all works out. But yeah, receiver. I mean, there's just so many different things he could do. So
yeah, Galloway, for whatever reason, the thing that comes to my mind with him is this screams like one of those kids who goes to like Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And absolutely makes our lives a living hell. You know, the receiver, I cannot think of his name. You know, this was a couple years ago. I think he was a Toledo area kid, went to Wisconsin and shredded us.
What was his name? How many years ago was he there with
I want to say this was when DJ was still with 11 Warriors, because I cannot
what the
think
heck
of
was his name. It wasn't Abadarius, was it?
No, I think it was after him.
I was after him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Let's see here. But and another, we've seen it with some kids that go to Michigan State too. Like LJ Scott, went there and had a great career, but just wasn't in the cards from, or at Ohio State at that time. I cannot find his name. So we'll have to circle back to that at some point if I can think of it. But yeah, that was, that's the type of thing the vibes I get from Galloway.
Yeah, for sure.
So moving on, one other little thing about camp this week, Carter Lowe popped in pretty much unexpectedly.
He did. Yeah.
So that goes a long way. Shows you that he's really trying to get that work in.
Yep.
Looking at this week's camp, mostly 26s and 27s again, but 126 I will throw the name out on for Buckeye fans to remember is quarterback from the state of Florida, Diabell.
Yeah. Bell's boy.
Yeah. So that right there is a name to remember. Very much going to be in play for the 26 quarterback spot. Looks like he's here on the 11th. When we go to the next one, that one's all 26s and 27s. So that brings us to Father's Day weekend.
Yeah.
What better time for an official visit?
Yep.
And again, every time we talk about these visit weekends, I'm going to throw it out there. Tavian St. Clair is supposed to be on campus. What a leader.
Yeah.
And then the other cool thing that stands out because of one of the visitors is Eli Lee is going to be on an unofficial visit too.
Yeah.
This weekend is loaded again. Lots of big time players. Offensive side of the ball. And again, this is a name that was more tied to Tony Alford, but you've got running back Byron Lewis from Florida.
Yep.
If Alford was still here, he's probably number 2 on the board.
Yep.
If I had to guess. But more intriguing is a guy I'm going to go ahead and say we're going to put on commit watch for next weekend, and that's Isaiah West.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of smoke there. I think, get that official out of the way, pull the trigger.
Yep.
You like this kid a lot.
I love Isaiah West. I think he's another one of those kids who he's a freak of nature. I talked to a few people who have some ties back to that area. Our head coach at Findlay has some ties back to that area in Philly. So when they talked about Isaiah West, the one person they compared him to physically was Saquon Barkley. And that is just like, not saying he's Saquon, but from a physical, like brute standpoint, he is just a physically gifted, imposing human being. And so to get somebody like that, again, that is the type that Coach Locke is trying to get, these downhill guys that are going to get you 3 to 4 every single time. And, now once you get those 2 guys in the class, now you can go all in on Davison, or you can go all in on the current Alabama commit. I forgot.
Anthony Rogers.
Yeah, you can go all in on those guys who provide a little bit of that versatility at that position. And so I love the recruiting strategy that we have had with the running backs. This is something that, I'm not tooting my own horn, but I've been pounding the table for years, is that this is the way that we need to go about it. Don't look at the stars, look at the traits, get the guys in here, and then let's go swinging for those big fish after we get those guys that we know are going to be reliable for years to come. And so, Isaiah West is going to be that type of player. Hopefully, he pulls a trigger. Both you and I both think that he will. So, it'll be nice to get that guy in the class. And then again, we can go all in on these guys, the Davisons of the world, just like with the defensive backs. Now that we've got Faheem, now our sole focus is Trey McNutt. You know what I mean? And so we are going to be locked in on him, and he's going to get the full court press because we've already solidified those other spots around him by taking, Deshaun Stewart, by taking Cody Haddad. And so this is the way that I think the Buckeyes have to continue to approach recruiting, and it's just fun to watch. It's been great. And now we can go swinging for those big fish because we've got, the foundation and the nuts and bolts of our class already done.
Yeah, absolutely. Another name that intrigues me, wide receiver Phillip Bell.
Yeah.
He's kind of that next tier. Going to be a hard pull out of California, but would be worth monitoring if, Vernell Brown goes somewhere in Florida. You lose out on French and more. You can never count Hartline out.
No, never. Never.
And then a couple big fish on the O-line. Micah DeBose.
Mm-hmm.
He's from Alabama. An absolute stud. There's no other way to put it on this one. I'm trying to get his numbers pulled up here real quick. Big. He's a left tackle. I mean, 6'5", 315. Right now it sounds like it's LSU all the way. Yeah. Obviously, Bama's going to be a player anytime you're looking at somebody in the South like that. But interesting, again, to monitor.
Have the Buckeyes ever recruited Alabama this hard? The state of freaking Alabama. I mean, it is the GOAT retires and then the Buckeyes just freaking pounce. And that is what a great, again, I sound like I'm, gassing the Buckeyes up way too much right now, but it's such a good strategy to have because Saban's gone. So now there's going to be questions. Hey, this is a perfect time for us to jump in there. So shout out to Ryan Day for going after these guys, man.
Yeah. And I can't think of the guy's name that, got hired, to be Pantoni's assistant, but that right there is a huge help in getting into Alabama.
Yep.
And then you factor in Coach Locke's connections to the South.
Yep.
It's just a perfect way to go. Then another name that I don't know it's not a huge name, but it probably should be, honestly, is Josh Petty, out of Georgia, another tackle, 6'4.5", only 262 right now. But, obviously you get to a college strength and conditioning program that will bump him up.
Yep.
Interesting thing as I look through his list, Florida State, Georgia Tech, Ohio State, Stanford, Tennessee, no Georgia. But I don't feel like he fits the mold of what Georgia wants. They love those big, the Aramis Mims bodies,
Yeah. My guy Ryan Montgomery was on campus last weekend down in UGA. He posted some pictures with some of the recruits that they had, and it was 3 offensive linemen that he was behind. And Ryan's not a little dude. Ryan's every bit of 6'3", and these dudes were massive. I'm just like, he's in heaven. He's going to go from our guy at center up at Finley. He's 5'8", 215 pounds, an absolute dog. But he's going to go from that to 6'6", 330, just freaking trucks.
It's crazy, man. Kirby just has a type at every position, honestly, and he just goes in and gets his guys. Yep. He kills those offensive tackles. He kills the secondary, and then he finds this big run stuffing, athletic Jalen Carter defensive tackles.
Yeah, absolutely.
Guys like Jalen Carter are not supposed to be able to move as well as that.
Nope. I don't even have words for it. It's just those guys are just physically gifted, man.
London Merritt's on his official. Defensive lineman Marion Dye out of Indiana.
Yeah.
That's going to be an interesting one to follow in a way, because I'll be curious to see if he actually makes the trip.
Okay.
Sounds like there's a whole lot of Michigan smoke out there about him.
Gotcha.
But this is a guy who 4-star, number 3 player in the state of Indiana. Florida State, Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State. I mean, one thing you look at, with Ohio State recruiting, and we've talked about this a tinge, and it's not a slam on anybody. used to, you look at some of the offers of guys we would recruit and guys that would commit to us, and it's like something's not right here. Ohio State is not like the others.
Yeah.
And now you look and it's literally Ohio State, Georgia, LSU, USC, Oregon. We're going in to recruit guys that are going to be battles. We're not walking into cakewalks.
Yep.
So that's one thing that stands out. You know what? I might have got the name wrong. I think it's Maxwell Roy that the smoke is around Michigan.
Okay.
Let me double. Yeah, another D lineman though. He's from Pennsylvania. St. Joseph. Yeah, it is Maxwell Roy.
Okay.
St. Joseph's Prep in Philly. Now that one is interesting though, because like we just talked about, you look at the offer list and it's Michigan, Ohio State, Rutgers, Boston College, and Duke.
Yeah.
So is he a diamond in the rough? Is he, what are we missing here? I mean, he's a 4-star.
Yeah.
But 6'3", 270, you'd like to see a little more size in the middle, I guess. But so we'll see. And then the guy we've talked about, and I know you love this guy, but it's going to be interesting because I think his chances of coming to Columbus kind of hinge on Riley Pettijohn.
Yeah.
And that is Nathaniel Wosu-Boateng.
Yeah.
He's
a player.
Yeah, dude, he's
so
for those that don't know, he is the brother of JOK.
Yeah.
Who is a freak.
Yeah.
And little brothers from the same cloth.
Yeah.
Sounds like, all things originally were Notre Dame, but they just got a linebacker commit today. So a lot of people say that may open the door.
Okay. Let's make it happen.
I haven't watched a lot of his tape, but, as the defensive guy, have you watched him at all?
I've watched a little bit. And again, it's just a guy who's a freak athlete who's going to jump off the screen at you. And his athleticism is just going to propel him to, different levels, similar to a CJ Hicks, maybe not as big. But he's a guy that is very similar to his brother. He's going to fly around. He's going to get to the ball. He's going to be your walkout Sam linebacker. He's going to be your will linebacker in the box. I mean, the kid just has unlimited potential, and he's the guy that you get in, see how his body develops, and then you kind of go from there, see where he fits after that. So if you could add him to the linebacker class, that would be a pretty good fit, I think.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how that part of the class shakes out, because if you get either one of those guys and you pair them with Eli Lee, you've got your thumper, and now you've got your guy who's a little more athletic. Then in the secondary, the name that really jumps out, and I don't think there's a snowball's chance that he ends up in Columbus, but the fact we're getting an official, and if things don't pan out with Trey McNutt, maybe they go all in, and that's Jonah Williams.
Yeah.
Kid out of Texas. Sounds like he's going to Aggie land.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, most of those names are pretty well known. Out of those guys, who do you think, outside of Isaiah West, is most likely to be there? And who do you like the most out of the guys you've seen out of that list?
Oh, gosh. Out of that list, I mean, it's hard not to go with Isaiah West just because I think he's a really, really, really good player. But if you could get JOK's brother in the mix, I think he just provides that versatility at linebacker, that athleticism that, I think Coach Knowles covets. I think Coach Laurinaitis now being in that place would be able to really bring that linebacker out of him, kind of like he's doing with CJ Hicks right now. And so it's hard not to be excited about JOK's brother and that possibility. So, I want to see us shore up the offensive line, though. That's just what I want to see. So whoever that is, whatever that is, let's go make that happen, because that's where, these games are going to be won and lost. And so hopefully, Coach Fry can get a couple wins, a couple more notches on his belt. That would be great.
Just got the notification that South Florida Express won the championship.
Okay.
So Devin Sanchez, Deshaun Stewart, both Buckeyes, neither one from Florida, both playing for the South Florida Express.
Yeah.
But the talk coming out of that tournament, and this was a pretty big tournament, is Devin Sanchez may enter the conversation to be the number one player in the country now.
Dude.
So you've legitimately got Tavian, Devin Sanchez, Justin Hill, all kind of in that talk.
Yeah.
And there's a very real chance they all end up. I mean, 2 of the 3 are already committed.
Yeah.
And we're gonna know in about 4 weeks where Mr. Hill's going.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that kind of ties up, the visitors for this weekend.
Yep.
And then, come on the heels of that, then it gets a little fun because you've got another camp that we'll talk about next week. You have a 7-on-7.
Yeah.
And then another camp. And then I feel like we're beating a dead horse, but the 21st through the 23rd, as I look through the list of visitors, is huge.
Yeah.
And the cool and thing that stands out there, stop us if you heard us before, but this time they're both on officials. Tavian St. Clair, Devin Sanchez, both on campus.
Yeah, your biggest recruiters. Hey, sidebar, 7-on-7 tournament. I just want everybody to know the Findlay Trojans, we are the reigning champs of that 7-on-7 tournament. We won that championship last year. We knocked off the Bell Fountain guys and Tavian St. Clair. And so it was pretty cool to have Ryan and Tavian going up against each other in that final game. Coach Day was out there on the field, locked in on every piece of footwork from both guys, like just locked in. It was one of the coolest things. I was so happy our kids got to experience that. We got the win. Coach Hinton was giving me a hard time, asking me, what are you calling on defense? What is this? What is this? And then I make a call and we get a pick and he looks at me and just kind of gives me a head nod. I'm like, you could say you're proud, coach. You can. It's okay. Like, it's okay. I promise you, I won't cry. I'll just take it. I'll jot it down in my notes. On this day, Coach Hinton said he was proud of me. It's okay. And so that was pretty cool, man. So that 7-on-7, again, like you said, with the camps and everything, it's just another opportunity for the Ohio State coaches to get eyes on you. And so, take advantage of those opportunities, man. And there was a few kids down there that, really caught the eyes of Buckeyes that are going to be in this 25 and then the 26 class as well. So, keep an eye out for a few of them as well.
That was right before Tavian committed, right?
Yeah, that was so. It was that whole entire day. It was who's going to commit. Is it going to be Ryan? Is it going to be Tavian? And Tavian had committed earlier in the day, and that was like going around. It wasn't official, but it was just going around, and to see that, and then. Ryan obviously caught some wind of that, and he went out there and was like, "Oh, so he's going to go there? Okay, watch this." And so you just see the competitor and these young kids, man, and it was so cool to see Ryan go out there and to see Tavian compete and the relationship that they have. Like it was just cool, and it was just cool to see the smaller school Bell Fountain. Like Tavian just elevates them so much, and you could see that. It wasn't like a cocky thing. It was like, hey, I'm bringing these guys along with me. And it was, they fully are bought into that. So it was pretty cool, man.
Yeah, it was cool to see. I think it was Berm posted a picture of Tavian from a camp, somewhere in the past, and then a picture of now, and I can't believe it's the same guy.
Yeah. Oh, even from last year, it's night and day difference. Night and day.
I love it though. I don't like to discuss rumors, but it sounds like there's an interesting rumor about the quarterback room going out there, but it seems like that was debunked yesterday.
I'll say it was very intentional in that post.
Because I believe that the quarterback in question, does not have Zoom workouts with the Woody as his background. So, just that's your reminder, especially this time of year. don't believe anything and everything you read. When it comes to Ohio State, you guys know the guys we talk about a lot are the guys, to trust.
Yeah.
The Berms, the Alexes, the Andrews, those types of guys.
Yeah.
So you just remember that, because, that's the last thing these kids need is, it almost sounds like people are like, oh, I knew that was coming. Would have been interesting to see if the Ohio State quarterback room didn't shake out the way it did, if they would have took somebody to come in with Tavian. Because there for a long time, there was a thought out there that, if Tavian and Ryan both wanted to be there, there would be spots. But, the way that quarterback room is right now, you can't bring anybody else in. I mean,
yeah. No, there was definitely conversations about that. I can be pretty transparent about that. There was definitely conversations about that. And, at the end of the day, I think both guys ended up in a position that's best for them. And so it worked out perfectly. But, I think if Ryan wanted to be in that class, they would have taken him. That's just my opinion. But, shout out to Ryan, man. He went out there and bet on himself and did what he had to do. And now he's going to be at Georgia. So I'm excited for him.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say, is that it worked out well for both of them.
Yep.
So hopefully we get to see them against each other.
That'd be pretty cool.
That would be awesome.
I'd be a pretty conflicted young man.
Right. Hey, Ryan, I hope you throw for 500 yards and 6 touchdowns, but I hope we score 7.
Yeah.
So, June starting off with a bang. It's going to continue to be. I fully expect at least one more commit this week for us to talk about next week. That kind of ties up the Buckeye part of life. Not a whole lot going on in the sports world. We did have game 1 of the NBA Finals, and the Dallas Mavericks, who we both picked to win, looked like they didn't even belong. Game 2 tonight, I fully expect to see Kyrie go Uncle Drew mode. We had a game 1 of the Stanley Cup last night. I'm not a massive hockey fan, but I tend to watch the Stanley Cup. Panthers won 3-0. I did watch the entire French Open final today.
Wow. Good for you.
Obviously I was kind of productive while I was trying to do it, fiddling around the house. Those dudes, man, as I've started to watch a little bit of tennis with Jaden, it's crazy. Like, but you can find other comparisons. Like the two guys today, one is 21 years old, and as I told Jaden, I label him like a shot maker. Like, you watch some of the stuff he can make the ball do. And the other guy, it's kind of like a pitcher who has really good junk.
Yeah.
And it went 5 sets. It was a banger. But Alcaraz did end up winning. He would have been the favorite. So it's cool though. It was fun to watch. One little nugget of Browns news kind of ties to the Buckeyes though. Browns signed Wyatt Davis this week.
Yeah, man.
As we talked about earlier in the beginning of our shows, the son of Alvin Mack.
Alvin Mack's boy. Wow.
Kill them all, let the ambulance sort them out. So be interesting to see, what happens there.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting, especially now with Bill Callahan not being there. Still got to learn a little bit about this offensive line coach, but shout out to the Browns, by the way. I know Coach Ratliff yesterday, he's catching up on our episodes, and he was like, listen, one episode you guys were talking about rappers and the Browns, and I was just like, I can't listen to it. And I was like, well, I'm sorry. We're going to talk about the Browns. Shout out to the Browns, man, for getting AB and Stefanski the contract extensions, man. Like, I was on my way to Olentangy actually when it happened, and to see it, just you reflect, and you always think like, we just always wanted as Browns fans continuity. You know what I mean? And for there to be continuity and to continue that, for however, what's been 4 years now, And it's hopefully it continues into the future. It's just like you're getting to see a vision play out with a GM and a head coach. And so as a Browns fan, I know it hasn't resulted in a Super Bowl or anything like that, but it's resulted in consistency. We can always bank on us being in a position to battle for playoff spots, I believe. We just got to get the quarterback position figured out as per usual, but we'll get there eventually. But shout out to AB and Stefanski, man. Thank you for bringing us out of the muck. That's a nice way that I will put it, because it was bad.
I don't think I've ever seen a guy as good as AB at his job. One other little nugget that I forgot about, the CFP schedule came out.
Yeah.
And it provides like 15 days of amazing football.
Yeah.
So that's going to be cool to see. Guardians won yesterday. Looks like they won again today. So yeah, other than that, pretty quiet time. NBA free agency and stuff will be picking up. So that'll be cool to talk about. One other thing, and this is the most polarizing subject in the world in the last 24 hours, at least in the United States. The women's Olympic basketball roster comes out.
Yeah.
The only thing, I don't know if you saw my tweet yet. I tweeted this late last night. So for those that don't know, Caitlin Clark got left off the Olympic roster.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if you're going to leave her off of that one. How is she not on the 3-on-3?
Yeah.
I mean, you put Cameron Brink on the 3-on-3. Now, granted, HVL and Cameron Brink both have played multiple 3-on-3 tournaments.
Yeah.
But I understand, Caitlin Clark wasn't able to go to either one of the camps because of the Final Four and I think preseason camp.
Yeah.
But you're talking about arguably the best guard in the game right now.
Yeah.
Now I will say this. You look at that roster, and Caitlin Clark is a scorer, first and foremost. I don't know, in the international game, especially like on the men's side, ball movement is so vital. I don't know that you get that, but you can't leave Kate. I don't know. But the back to my tweet, the closest thing I compared it to, I said, haven't you guys ever watched the movie Miracle? It's not about the most talented players. It's about the best team.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, if the rumor out there that people were worried about how she would react to limited playing time, that's ridiculous. We have pounded the pavement for women's sports ever since we started doing this. And to leave the draw, that's way nicer. And he didn't mean it derogatorily, but Pat McAfee, come on, man.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? I know you are a massive women's sports fan as well.
Yeah, I'm looking up the roster. I'm looking up the roster right now. So here, this is my thing. Okay, I think that we have to take a look at who we have on the roster. Number one, and number two, understand that Caitlin Clark, although she has dominated and done so many things in college, she is a rookie. And so I think back to when, Christian Laettner was on the team. You think back to when Anthony Davis was on the team when he, first got out of college. Like, she's just not, in my opinion, she's the most polarizing player in women's sports right now, without a doubt. She is elite and has potential to be the greatest shooter, one of the greatest women's players of all time. But is she better than who's already on the roster? And if you look at it, I don't think you can say that she is. I'm looking at the roster. I see Sabrina Ionescu. Like, she's definitely not better than her right now. Kelsey Plum, definitely not better. Even the OG Diana Taurasi, who's like 50 years old, I cannot go out there and say that she is better than these people who have professional and Olympic experience. And so the other part of it too is like, yeah, we're enamored with Caitlin Clark, but I'm just looking at this. Kelsey Plum has had no Olympic experience until this year. She's one of the best players in the WNBA. Sabrina Ionescu has not had any Olympic experience until this year. Like, mind-blowing. And so, like, these people are getting their first opportunities. Like, Caitlin Clark's time will come. She's going to be the face of the league, the face of USA women's basketball for years to come. All right. But her time will come. Now, you got to look at the FIBA rules and the way the game is different. You know, like, you just got to take a look at those things. I agree with you with the 3-on-3. Obviously, Cameron Brink and HVL went out and won the world championships or whatever it was last summer. And so I totally get why they're running it back with that same group, because they already went out there and won. It would be hard for me not to want to have Caitlin Clark on that team, because she is just an amazing scorer, and 3-on-3 allows for nothing but scores. So, you know, that is something that I would have probably wanted to see her on there, but, you know, her time will come. Her time will come. Those women are going to go out and they're going to do their thing. They're over their last 73 games, they're 70-3. Like, they're going to be fine. They're going to be fine. 100. They're going to dominate. So, Caitlin, it's okay. You know what? You deserve a break. You should go, like, lock your phone in a lockbox. Go hang out. Yeah. Go hang out with your significant other and just go be by yourself with them and not worry about a single thing, because you've been under the microscope for the last 3 years. Go enjoy being a young woman and have fun. Like, enjoy the time away, because it's probably the only time you're going to have from now until the end of your career.
Yeah, that'll be cool to monitor. So I think that is about it in the sports world. So for coach talk this week, we're kind of going to combine coach talk. I know you've got some videos with some Oklahoma State stuff, and then you're going to kind of talk about the camp you did, and that's kind of part of the shout out too. So I'm going to sit back and let you talk about the jack position with some videos from Oklahoma State.
Yeah, man. So I've been thinking about what I wanted to talk about. And so every Ohio State podcast, website, everything I've been on, listened to, the jack position is always brought up. When it comes to recruiting, talk about Justin Hill down at Winton Woods. Jeremy and I have been pounding the table. This is a must get, whatever it takes. Drop the biggest NIL bag to make sure that this kid gets here on campus. He is your prime example of the jack position. Well, what is the jack position? The jack is a true hybrid defensive end outside linebacker. When you think about our current roster, it's going to be the three people in the mix for this spot are going to be CJ Hicks, Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese. You might be able to throw Gabe Powers in that mix too. I don't know yet. But those first three are going to be the three people that you're going to see in that mix. And so I've got some clips of 2021 when Jim Knowles was at Oklahoma State. This was the year that kind of propelled him into that conversation as one of the top defensive coordinators in the country, which led to him coming to Ohio State as the highest paid assistant. And so I got some clips I want to show. Luckily, shout out to some amazing people that, you know, I've got connections with. We're able to get access to a lot of these old films. So it's great. It's a good resource to have. I probably spend too much time watching it, but the clips I'm going to pull up are from their first game of 2021 against Missouri State. I know it's an FCS opponent, but it does a good job of showing exactly what we are trying to get out of that jack position. Get it pulled up, share. All right. So everybody got me? Can you see the screen?
Yep.
All right. So this is against Missouri State. All right. Now in 2021, the guy that you're going to see at this position, his name was Brock Martin. All right. Brock Martin was a first team all conference player in 2021. He was 6'3", 250 pounds. Who's that sound like? the guys that we're going to have at that position. They may not be 250 pounds, but they're both in that range. CJ Hicks, 6'3", 235 pounds. Sonny Styles, 6'4", 240 pounds. So you're talking about guys in a similar range. The one thing I will say about our guys, CJ Hicks and Sonny, their athleticism is through the roof. Now, you look at Brock Martin, and I'll show you some clips of him here in a second. Brock Martin was wearing number 9, and you'll see it on the film. He had 41 total tackles, 14 tackles for loss, and 9 sacks during this season. And so this was a guy that was used quite a bit. When Ohio State has the jack position, I don't know if it's going to be somebody that's used on every single down, but I do think it's going to be somebody that's used about 40% of the time. So when you look at their stats, I don't know if they'll be as high as Brock Martin's were in 2021, but you'll look to see if he has the same effective rate as Brock Martin did. And so we'll watch a couple clips. You'll see that this guy lines up in a few different spots, okay? So the first thing we see with this defense is you got your traditional 3-down linemen that you typically have in a Jim Knowles defense. Now, the one that we have seen at Ohio State these last 2 years is a strictly 4-man front. That's where this guy comes into play, and this is the jack, and he's in what is called a mug alignment. The mug alignment means that he's going to line up to the side of the running back, and he's going to be at about a yard off the ball. All right. Now, why do you do that? Because you think this team is going to have this guy right here do a lot of pulling around this way. Okay. So if he's pulling around this way, now you're telling this jack, oh, I'm just going to go follow him and go make the play. It really messes up with some blocking schemes, and it allows you to kind of get a free linebacker to the football almost every single time. Okay. So as you can see, this jack is able to just kind of do what he wants to do. You can see he's kind of roaming around, right? He's not really down in a stance. He's just trying to throw off where he's going to be. He finally gets set, and you can see that's where the offense had to adjust. What just happened there? The offense got called for a penalty, a delay of game, because this guy's alignment was confusing the quarterback. It's one of the things I love about this jack mug style defense. It's one of the reasons why I think Ohio State needs to incorporate it. Okay, so this next clip, all right, now we've got the jack, all right, in another mug position, but now to the tight end, to the Y off, all right. Why do they have him here? Because they likely think the ball is going to go back this way, and it's going to allow him to be a free player. All right, so let's see what happens. What do you know? The Y goes pulling that way. Now, because he's here, this guy has a decision to make. Am I going to be able to block him, or am I going to have to go all the way up to this backer, or am I just going to go ahead and wash down this defensive end or defensive nose guard? Okay. The jack, if you know, is completely untouched. All right. Now, I want you to think about this. This guy is not as athletic as CJ or Sonny. All right, he does a good job of stringing it out, maybe a 2-yard gain. If this is CJ Hicks or if this is Sonny Styles, they're running this play down. It's going to be a tackle for loss. All right. Very hard for him to be accounted for in the blocking scheme. And it makes for guys like Sonny and CJ to just utilize their athleticism. Would like to see this guy do a better job of setting the edge, but that's another coaching point that I won't get into because I'll be here all day long. But this is something that you will see from CJ Hicks and Sonny Styles if you actually deploy the jack position. All right, this is a better look at it. Okay, this guy's number 9. He's just see ball, get ball. Okay, that's a pretty good clip of what they really expect. I'll show you one more so I can get off my little tangent here. Again, this is week 1, game 1 of the 2021 season. This is the first 3 plays of defense. This is what Jim Knowles wants to do. All right, he wants to do this on a consistent basis. Sorry about that. Okay, you see the jack? Now, this is the one thing I love about it, and this when we think about our guys, CJ and Sonny and Arvell, notice where he starts his alignment. Okay, he starts his alignment inside. We get that motion. He now goes outside. Well, now if it's a passing situation, what's this guy going to be doing? He's going to be rushing the quarterback. I don't know many left tackles, right tackles that are going to be able to stop CJ, Sonny, and Arvell if they're getting after the quarterback. All right. So now they've seen that alignment. They've got to tweak things. They got to hurry up. They know this guy's probably coming off the edge, untouched. CJ and Sonny, more athletic, likely able to bend the corner a little bit better there, probably make that play in the backfield. Okay. This is one of the things that I love about the jack position that I think will allow for our athletes. Sorry, let me stop sharing. That will allow our athletes to actually go out there and be elite level athletes and not do too much thinking. You can see that guy, when they're in that mug position, they've got a lot of freedom. They're able to be in the middle of the run game. They're able to go down on the outside and rush the quarterback as well. And so when we talk about the jack position, that is the type of stuff that we're talking about. And we hope that we see CJ, Sonny, or Arvell in that position, because if we do, they are going to be an X factor in our defense if we can fully, deploy that Jim Knowles scheme. So that is something I wanted. Everybody talks about the jack, but we not really have seen it. This is what we expect to see out of the jack position, and those are the three guys that we expect to see there. So that's my rant on the jack position.
And he doesn't always line up on the strong side, which I like, because so many variations when that first became a thing. It was literally you only line up on the strong side. Yep.
Yeah, you can really line up wherever. I mean, it's you decide obviously when you're breaking down the film, hey, when we run this mug front or whenever we're setting the strength, the jack is going to line up here. So we're going to identify where you're going to line up pre-snap every single game, and we're going to allow you the freedom to kind of get up there, show like you're blitzing or show like you're a true defensive lineman, and it's going to mess with the quarterback's eyes. It's going to mess with the blocking schemes. Is he coming? Is he not? There are some clips later on in that game where that jack shows like he's going to blitz, but now he drops back into coverage, and that is where CJ and Sonny are going to excel, especially Sonny, because he's been a safety his entire career. And so this is just a truly versatile position that I think we have the perfect people to do it, to use it, and we just need to fully integrate this into our defense. And like I said, it doesn't have to be an every snap thing. It may only be 30% of the time, 40% of the time. That's okay. But you got to get CJ and Sonny on the field at the same time. And I think this is the best way to do that.
Love it. Yeah, that's going to be exciting to see, because we finally have the right guys for it. And and Arvell Reese, I saw some workout pictures, and that dude looks like a monster.
He's a grown man.
He's a grown man. He looks like he could take down Gable Stevenson. I mean, So, and that's something that will be fun to monitor throughout the summer, seeing how these guys change. That's kind of coach talk, and that was awesome. And I think that will be very, very informative for a lot of people. Coach hit on it at the beginning of the show. Coach helped out at a football camp last night. Pretty cool cause. But again, I'm going to kind of punt this one and let him go into it. But the 740 Brotherhood camp.
Yeah, man. So Gene Rucker, shout out to Gene Rucker, Marionaire from Marion, Ohio, graduated from Harding. I forget the year. I just know he's younger than I am. I think it was 2011, maybe 2012, something like that. We coached together at Harding. He was the head coach at Cardinal Stritch. Now he is the tight ends coach and assistant offensive line coach with Toledo Central Catholic. Everybody knows Toledo Central Catholic.
They're okay at football.
Yeah. They've won 2 consecutive state championships. Gene had his rings on, whatever. But he's had a successful career. And like myself and many others who have come before us, we know that the success that we have as coaches, as anything, all comes back to our growing up here in Marion, to our love of Marion Harding football. And it's just who we are as a foundation. So Gene reached out to myself and LJ Scott to kind of help organize and set up this Marion Football Brotherhood camp. And so basically we wanted to get as many alumni as we could from Harding. And not just really Harding, really anywhere in the county, but we really focus on getting guys from Harding just to come back and for our youth to see us united as one. There's so many different conversations that go on. Who's the best team? Who's the best player? Who's this? Who's that? Who's that? This era of Harding football is better. This era of Harding football is trash. Whatever. At the end of the day, we all want the same thing. So Gene, LJ, and I, we sat down, we talked, we figure out, running something like this camp would be a really cool idea to kind of get people from all, eras of Harding football to come back and help, and so that the youth see that we are all, united as one. And it was pretty cool. We had just over 100 kids there, maybe a little bit more. I don't know the final numbers. And we had, I believe it was like 30 volunteers who were there as well. And so it was awesome. I mean, we had guys from, as early as, 1998 into, this past year in 2023. Alex Stokes was there. And so we had a lot of guys there, and it was great, man. It was cool to see everybody come together, put the egos aside, not be, Harding football is not what it should be, or this isn't what it should be. Like, all that was nothing. We don't care about that. We're here for these kids, and we're here for the community. And so it was a good event. I think this is something that, Gene is wanting to do annually. And he knows he's got the support of me and LJ, and, Corey Chapman was there. Thaddeus Carter will likely be there next year. His daughter had a softball game this weekend and couldn't be there, but Todd Schneider was there. The GOAT, Larry Whistler, was there. Coach Whistler, absolute legend of a coach, showing up and seeing all of his guys that he coached from the 90s all the way up until, he retired in 2014. And so, it was pretty cool to see all of us come back and really just be there for the kids and to be there for the community. Former head coach Heath Hinton was there, which was pretty cool. Bob Stone. And we just had a lot of guys there, man. And it was fun. The kids, we worked them. It was hot. They were tired. But all around, it was fun. And we're hoping that this is something that we can do annually. We want to continue to make it, bigger, get the word out there a little bit more next year. And so it was a good time. It was very refreshing. It takes you back to your roots on why you love the game of football, what's important to you. And so it was good. We had Trey Crampton there doing all the videography stuff. Evan Richardson and his dad were there blaring some music, which was pretty cool. And so all in all, it was a good camp. We got some things that we liked, some things that we didn't like that we could improve, but all in all, man, it was good. And I think the gods of the City of Kings, if they were looking down, they would be pretty proud of all the people who came back and, piled in the Sawyer Ledwick Park, and we're out there, coaching the kids up like it was Marion midget football all over again, man. So it was good, man. It was a good time.
That is awesome. That is awesome. That just makes you smile,
Yeah.
You hope that, the kids had fun, and at the end of the day, it's all about the kids.
Yep.
So yeah, cool week, some Buckeye stuff, cool stuff in Marion. I know not everybody that listens is from Marion, so you probably are like, yeah, but take it back to your town, wherever you're from.
Absolutely.
Do something for the kids. But that's all I've got for the week.
That's it, man. That's all I got too.
All right. Well, we will see you guys next week, where hopefully we talk some more commits and we talk another round of official visits.
There we go.